There is one more API you are trying to create, which is on the local server on the Tufan. In the night classes, you have done on your using a ngrok and try to share your URL there, and we evaluated that. All right. So I'm assuming you already know something on the Node.js because we already done that, and little bit of an Express.js, how to create an API. Today, with this knowledge, we are trying to create an API, but not with talking to an Mongo. Did I make sense, everybody? The same exercise we will be continuing. The same exercise we'll try to do using Mongoose in the exercise 2. Do you see what I'm saying, everybody? It's a continuation task from here on. The first task will be generating an API, creating an API using Node with Express. The second task, the same task we'll be doing with Mongoose application. The third task would be, after creating a successful API, you will be creating a front end for that. So that you will do one full cycle of what is back end and what is front end. In this process, we try to touch the minute details which we haven't covered in the project, and any questions from your end, we'll try to answer them. Did I make sense, everybody? Our target is to do up to exercise 2 before your next pre-FS test. Are we all on the same path, everybody? Did I make sense so far? Yes? Last rows? I'm seeing drop in the attendance after taking the attendance. All right. Let me walk through the problem statement. First, you will be working on it. You will start working on it. All right. Then I'll wait for a couple of minutes. Let me see where you are, and then I'll start building on it. But this time, don't expect me to type everything. I'll be sharing my code and walk through the code, like how do you do in the dark class. All right. So we'll do that one. All right. Let me see the problem statement for you. Building an REST API. I hope it is visible to the last rows. Can I get quick yes or no's, please? If it is visible, please raise your hand. Not visible? Is it visible, everybody? Last rows. You want more? How about now? Perfect? All right. See this? Building REST API with Node.js and Express. Why did I say Node.js and Express? Why not only the Express? Please answer it. Pardon? In the last session, we have done creating an API using Node.js. Why can't I name that as an Express API directly, Express.js directly? Why I'm naming it as a Node and Express? This is because Express independently it will not work. It has to work on top of the Node.js. Make sure that sits into your mind, everybody. All right. Now, our objective is create a basic REST API for invoice management. You know, when you wanted to order something, that is called as an invoice, what all we have and all of them, and using Node.js and Express. That's the main objective. The requirement is set up a Node.js project with Express. How do you do that, everybody? How do you create Node.js project? Pardon? npm init, and pass every possible data what you wanted, that directory name, entry point, all of them. I see some blank faces. Not audible. All right. Okay. My requirement again. Set up a Node.js with Express. With Express, what does that mean? Do I need to say Express in it now? No. You need to install the Express, which is not coming with a Node.js. It's an external framework. External framework. What is the difference between library and framework? Did you all use path library, path module? Did you all use OS module? Did you all use file module? Those are called sometimes as in libraries. Then I'm calling Express as in framework. What does that mean? What is the difference there? Library, it is trying to have only set of functions in them. To keep it simple, I'm trying to say. Whereas in framework, whatever you would like to do with that, I mean to say you can integrate that within some other things also, not only the functions, take something and you can manipulate that also according to your need, but follow the syntax, whatever it is documentation is trying to tell. Basic difference. We'll talk more on it. Now tell me, you already done some projects on it. Is React is a framework or library? React is a framework or library? React is a library. Whereas Angular is a framework. Explore more on it, please. All right. So implement the endpoints, API endpoints, only 3 for today. That is get request, and my endpoint should be an invoices. The same endpoint with an post request, post method, it has to be same invoices where you can update the invoice. Get request with an query parameter ID. You have to pass some ID of your invoice. If it is there, it has to return the JSON of it. Did I make sense so far, everybody? Yes? Now, what all we need here? I want you to think such a way, invoice structure is this one, please. It should have invoice number, and you see my comment over there, it has to be auto-generated. Let me say if I start my invoice number from 101, the first invoice which has to be inserted should be 101. The second invoice has to get increment, auto increment, and it has to 102. Think on it. How can we do that? Next, customer name is a string, and which is an required. Why I'm using all this required, auto-generated, or all of them? Because I want the same thing to be simulated in a Mongoose also. I mean MongoDB also. That's the reason I made few of them as a required one. You know, while developing schema, you need to know which are required, which are not required, which are auto-generated, which should have something else. That's the reason I do not want you to miss the continuity. I want you to generate this kind of a schema for our without Mongoose also, without Mongo also. My question, I thought you would ask me, where do I create them? We'll talk on it. So items, it should have item name, quantity, price, amount. What do you mean by amount here? If I say the price of one product is 100, if I'm buying for an 5 quantity, amount has to be 5 into 100. That is an amount there. Price is different, amount is different. Make sure on it, please, everybody. Amount has to be calculated and update, whereas quantity and price has to be by default. What is that product quantity that has to come? Product price that has to come. Am I making sense so far, everybody? Any questions? I hope. All right. Total number. For example, what I mean to say here, total number is, for an instance, I'm buying in multiple products. While checking out, my sum has to be all the products. I mean to say, one product is taking like 200 rupee. The second product is taking 300 rupee, but I'm buying for the two quantity, that is 600 plus 100. The third one is in 300 again, one more. This 600 plus 300, 900. That's total bill. What I'm meant to say, the total amount here. The amount over here is an quantity into the price of a single product, single item. Total amount is in total items that while checking out what is on total bill. That one please. All right. Now, what are while validating? You need to do something. What are the required validations you need to do? All required field must be present. Now, where do you think we need to pass this? Come, go back to one class behind. Where do you think already, today's session also, Shirisha ma'am talked about that. Where do you think all required fields? What are the required fields, everybody? Customer name and the billing address. All right. Where do you think we pass them while creating API? Where do you think we need to pass the data for all required fields so that you would validate them? Pardon? Body. While using your Thunder client or Postman if you are comfortable, your method type has to be post. Under the body, you will be passing some JSON. There, you should not miss our name and also address field. That you have to validate. The second requirement for validation is quantity and price must be positive numbers. You cannot give quantity as in -1 and price as in negative values. I want that also to be validated. And the third one, auto generation. All right? Did it make sense, everybody? Now, are you seeing that what I'm expecting, everybody? Now, error handling, implement proper error messages, error responses. Now, tell me something. If I successfully insert an item into an inventory system, what should you return as status? On successful insertion of item, what status code you should return? Is it 200 or 201? What is 200? What is 201? What is 200? It's an OK message. Something you requested for is available. I'm trying to serve it. But I'm saying you need to insert some item. If it is successfully inserted, that means you've done something. Example for updating also. You have done something. The status code is not 200 there, it has to be 201. Now tell me, if you are trying to update some item, for example, I am passing an ID of an 4, which is not available, what response status you would return? Is it 400 or 404? Or something else? Are you seeing what I'm saying, everybody? Now you are getting confusions in status codes? Yes, everybody? Tell me, if I'm trying to update something which ID is not available, what status code you would be returning? What? 404? How many of you agree that 404? So others not listening. Those who raised hand already. All right. Now tell me, handling invalid request. The source is not at all available, which you are requesting for. What do you return there? What do you mean by invalid request? For example, you did not pass the required field like name and the address. What status code you would return? In the body, in the post, you forgot to pass name and address, which are the required fields that you are validating. Then what status code you would be returning? Is my question clear to you? 400? Very good. That says invalid request. Did you understand now 400 and 404 difference? So return handle invalid requests and also return the appropriate status codes. Deliverables, you need to give a proper endpoints, input validation middleware, error handling middleware. This one you don't need to connect to the Mongo here. This is where I was talking about your question you did not raise yet. Where do I store all of these items? You store these items in a static memory array. Later in the exercise 2, you will convert this array into a MongoDB. Is the question clear, everybody, now? Start working on it, please, everybody. However, if I start the exercise also, first you need to do on your PC. Try to build model view controller, everybody, so that you can manipulate the same code in the next exercise also. Okay? You know what I'm saying, right? That's an extension of your first task only. The third exercise would be checking your status codes. If you have done one, second is easy. If you have done the second, third one is easy. Why we have divided? Just to make sure that you're learning it by checklist, checkpoints. All right? I'll wait for, second one started? I'll wait for 5 minutes for the first one. Another 5 minutes for the second one. Okay? First one is started already. After first one, after 5 minutes, I'll talk about how to do that by walking through the code. Those who are still struggling, I don't know this. I know this would be the trivial one.
You explain about your error messages.
Those who are struggling, how to create all of them. Step 1, create the Node.js project. How do you do? Create a folder. I created a folder called Invoice Management API. Get into that and say npm init -y. I'm not worried about authors, all of them. All right. Then what does npm init does? It creates package.json where all the details of your projects, including who is the author, what is a Git repository, what are the dev dependencies, all of them will be there. All right. So what are the dependencies we need? Express. Now tell me something. Express goes into what kind of a dependency? That would be a general dependency or dev dependency? Regular dependency. Express, look at your package.json. Express will go to the regular dependency. Node-mon, that is an optional one which I have done while doing this exercise. Node-mon, so that if I do multiple changes every time, I need not restart my server. What's an alternative for Node-mon? Have you ever tried without node mod, any alternative? Explore something like time watch or something, watch something. Explore that package also, please. All right. My folder structure would be something like this. I don't know how many of you can see that. As I said, I wanted you to create like an MVC architecture. So this is my folder. Under my folder, index.js, where I'll be writing my app. Routes, where I'll be writing my routes. Middlewares, where I'll be validating my, I have some checkpoints there to be validated. Models, where I'll be creating my models. For this exercise, this doesn't make sense with these namings, but if you see the future, as I said, we'll be continuing the same exercise for the upcoming classes. So in the next exercise, I mean to say, while we are talking to the MongoDB, this would make more sense to you. All right? This is my folder structure, please. Now tell me, with the schema which I have shown here, which actually works for our Mongo schema definition, now tell me what should I create, how do I create? There is no schema for an array. How do I create this then? How do I create this? It should be treated as an object and put that object into a list. Likewise, you may have the many objects. If you remember our previous exercises, we have done something like list of persons with age, all of them. Collection of an objects. All right? So let me show my code for that. I hope you already started. My code should go and sit where, please? Where should my object creation should be? It should be in the index.js or invoice routes or validation or invoice? What do you think? What do you think why we are using index.js? What kind of a code should be in index.js? Where you are creating your app. That's what you said, right? App creation. What kind of a code should go into invoice routes.js? Your gateways, your API endpoints. What kind of a code should go and sit into validation middleware? Your checkpoints. What were my checkpoints actually? All required fields, name and address should be there. Quantity and price cannot be the negative values. All these validations has to be done there. Now, what do you think invoice.js should have now? Your object creation. Yes? Let me show my way of object creation. See, this is where I'm trying to store all my invoices. Like I said, it has to be the array data structure. This data structure in upcoming class we'll be using for an Mongo. There we'll sit, our invoices should go and sit into the Mongo database. I'm creating a class called invoice where it will take customer name, billing address and item. I'm trying to pass them to an invoice number, customer number and billing address. Now if you look at my customer invoice number, it is auto incrementing, post increment operation where I started my invoice number to be the 1. While talking I said 101, it is 1 here. It's up to you what you would like to start.
They should start with 0. The first invoice number should be 1.
This is post increment here. No, in real time scenario, depends upon a code, something code you will have actually. Depending upon that, you try to update your invoice number. All right. So what are the items you are trying to get through the item? I'm trying to map through each item and spread over the item and also calculate for every item what is an amount on it. So item quantity into the item price and also total amount. Now you would see the real-time scenario of a map callback function and reduce here. Map reduce filter, we say that as a very important one. Let me take a little pause here. Did I make sense so far or you want me to explain this again? Code? You want the code? Huh? You want code? Huh? That you have to develop. Kada. However, we'll do that later. Anything to be, I did not log in. Anything to be talked on this, please map or reduce? Okay. I'm assuming that as a no. So implement the endpoint. Start the second one also. So I'm implementing endpoints now. Router.get. So where is this router coming from? Express.
I think one or two members are trying to use ngrok for this. For the local exercises, we don't require ngrok this.
You know, for local Tufan, what do? You perform IP config and get the local port number attached with the port number which you have developed your app. Share that in the XML. All right. So you see this get state get one, converting that into the JSON by using the middleware. All right, and invoices has to be written. For the first exercise, it has to be the empty one. Post and other things I'll talk in the second exercise started. Let me show my validation. So validation function, validate invoice.
I gave this status codes in the question itself.
Okay. All right. From the request.body, get all of them. Among this, customer name, billing address is mandatory. So if there is no customer name, if there is no billing address, and in the items, if there are no items also, I'm trying to change the status code, all required fields must be present. All right. For the items, if I give some negative values, I'm trying to check if item name or item quantity less than 0, if item price less than 0, quantity and price must be positive numbers. All right. So my index.js is very straightforward. Require import the express, get the route which I created, get over there. Port number I'm running on 5000. Middleware express.json, it converts and use API invoices. I'm using API invoices here. It's up to you what is the gateway you are trying to use. If you avoid API, you can avoid API. You can directly get an invoices also. Or if you do not want all of this one, you can use just a slash as well. All right. If any one of these is not handled correctly, my status code is in 500, something has gone wrong, internal server error. Can you do all of these in the next Node.js then? No, this is very simple, straightforward. If you remember Node.js code API creation, we have to set our type HTML or JSON, all of them. This is far simpler than Node.js. Let me know if anything I have to re-talk.
Yeah, so far we have 4 completed.
How many of you are working? I'm seeing you are peeping into others' PCs.
Yeah, Ramalakshmi 1273. Please do submit IP address, not localhost, please.
Coming back to the basics, everybody, while submitting, you should pass your local IP, not the local host. How do you get local IP? IP config in the command prompt, IP config, there you would see the local network, that port number colon your port number. Sorry, that IP number colon your port number.
Yeah, 513 also. Please do submit it correctly.
Anything to be repeated, let me know, please.
Double six.
If you are waiting for my code, no, not now. First try it.
Gaurav Jain, please do submit the IP address along with the port number and the path. The path is API/invoices.
ఇక్కడ ఉంది.
Yeah, whatever the path that you are trying to access the data from the invoices, give the complete path, the URL path, please. IP score port number along with that route that is shown on the screen. If you have planned some different path for your get route, please mention that path.
You are talking about first exercise.
In the first
In the first exercise, we are checking only for an without post. So your Thunder client, what did you do there? Your local host colon some port number /API/invoices. Copy that one, paste it in the XML. Except local host, please replace local host with your local IP. That is it. Don't give us some random port numbers and random URLs. We wanted you to create and correct endpoints, please. We are very specific about endpoints because through endpoints only you would get some data. Those who have done, answer my question. After creating an endpoints, what would be the result, please? Any endpoints? Is second one started? Start. Your JSON. It's now your front end can be anything. Your front end can be HTML. Your front end can be mobile app. I mean to say, whatever. React. It can be Angular. It can be anything now. You have some data in JSON. It's up to you. How would you render? That's the reason we always start from the back end. Front end part is a minimal one. If you have the data, how to use it, it's up to you. How do you want it to show to the user? Is it something like Zomato and Swiggy are showing the same user interface to you? Of course, more or less similar, but you can make out from it what are the contexts they are talking about. But the behind scene, API is one and same. How you are trying to show to the user depends upon your requirement. Your UI designer will tell you. So concentrate first on the back end part. Front end part is a cakewalk for you because you know what to render, what not to render. Did you stuck somewhere? You want me to come to you? I guess second exercise is also started, where you need to post something, get by user ID. I mean to say ID also. It will be the same code. You need to have the 2 extra routes. Let me show you my routes then. This is my get route for the first exercise. Post something. First call the validate invoice. All right. If it is giving successful thing, then push it and return the appropriate status code, which we are checking in the third exercise, 201. All right, and return what you have inserted. If it is all right, getting through ID invoices dot find. You know, it's a callback function here. Get an invoice number, get that through the ID which you have passed through colon ID there. If it is not available, 404. If it is available, you need to get all of them with a status message called 200. Because it is available, you are returning it. I hope you know, by now you might have got difference between 200 and 201. When to pass status code 400, when to pass 200, when to pass 201, when to pass 404, when to pass 500. Sir, mean to say, behind test cases, sir is checking only that. The next class we will continue the same application with Mongo. Do not lose your data because you might be working only on the same folder, please. Those who are leaving now, did you done these exercises? I hope WT1 assignment marks is coming from this Tufan. I just wanted to remind, I don't want to make you to sit forcibly, but just I wanted to remind. Your WT assignment marks, 10 marks is coming from through Tufan exercises.
I hope you already know that very well. Some of you got zeros and ones also in your internal assessment marks because we didn't do anything in the
Tufan.
too far exercises here. So please do complete these exercises because once today it is completed, they won't be started back. So please do complete them and
Shall we stop it here only with the 1 and 2? Shall we start the third one also? So we'll stop it here only for the exercises. Make sure you submit them and get the marks today. In case you stuck somewhere, let me know, I'll come to you. 1 and 2 only. The first exercise is talking on getting the empty get route, which returns an empty array. The second task is asking about post route, get with an ID route with an appropriate status codes. Make sure you look at the schema, what has to be posted. Name and address. Your price and quantity cannot be non-negative value. Cannot be negative values. Do you want me to run at my end? I'll show my running. My server is running on 5000 port. On Thunder client, new request, localhost :5000. My endpoint has /API/invoices. You see my status here. Status code is 200. My status code is 200 and I'm getting an empty array. This is what we are expecting in the first task. You see my get over here, localhost :API/invoices. Status code 200, all right, empty array. Second one, posting an data into that. go to the body, go to the JSON and change the HTTP method to the post. Have some JSON data here in which name, address is mandatory, and also my item which has quantity and price should be non-negative value. So I have some dummy data with me already. Sample test data, I'm copying it. This is my JSON data. You see this customer name Matt King. You know these are inspired from Game of Thrones. Customer name is Matt King. He stays in Kingsland. He ordered laptop 1. Quantity is 1. Price is 1000. Item number 2 mouse. Quantity 2. Price 20. That is all, please. That is all we need when you are passing an item. Send the data. If you see my status code now, it is 201. That means created. So created with so and so, and amount is also calculated here. This is what we are expecting, please. Total amount and amount. Let me pass one more data. Let me copy it from a sample data here. My second request. If you look at my first request, my invoice number is the 1. My second invoice number should be auto incremented and it has to be 2. Let me insert now. I'm inserting the customer name as Tyrion Lannister. He belongs to Western Hills. Those who know Game of Thrones, they will understand this. I'm sending it. Again 201 status code with an invoice number 2. Now let me perform the get operation. Perform send. You see I got both the invoices. Now let me get the same one with an get with an ID. ID I have like 2 which belongs to Tyrion Lannister. Yes, you see that it has been sent as a response. Let me get something like which is not there. The 4 ID is not available. Invoice not found. You see for this status code 404. By now you should have understood 200, 201, 404. Let me pass some data again, which required fields are not there. I don't have any data for this, which is an important one to pass. All right. So let me send it. You see this 500 status code, internal server error. Make sure you understand the status codes, please. We'll stop it here. Only those 2 tasks for today. Complete them, please. If you have done, can leave for the day. Okay. For the next class, just a quick check. Is it okay to show the code and explain, or you want me to do from scratch? Scratch in the sense I should type import express, write the route. You know what I'm saying, right? Write the code. What do you suggest for the next class? You know, for the last all 7 classes which I taught, I was typing. Did you attend my last classes? Or? I was typing. This is the first time I'm trying to show up the code and walking through on it. What do you suggest? Coding, walking through. Coding or walking through? Explaining. More answers, please. Explaining. Everybody, for who are For the second exercise, just give your up to invoices. /1, /2, /3, we will check at our end. Make sure your get and post is working on the same endpoint. Only the method changes. I mean to say, if you look at here, my post endpoint is same. I'll only change the method here. Okay? Make sure you have the same thing. While getting, we at our end will try to pass /1 or /100 or that, we will take care of that. Okay? We wanted only this URL to be given for the second exercise, not the one for the post, one for the get ID. No, only one URL. Make sure you pass that for the post. Because what you develop for the get /1, we will add at our end and we will retrieve the data.